All right, so for this project, this is called the Beetle project, and it is basically an advertisement for a Volkswagen Beetle. And there are two tutorials here. We're going to follow the first one here, and then we'll jump over to the second one, and then we'll come back and finish up the whole project with this one. So there are actually two different projects you're doing here. The first one is just with a Beetle, and then the second part, you're going to create your own advertisement for your own product using these same skills, but you're going to have to find your own product and your own logo and develop a different background. So to start this project, what we want to do is we want to save or download the linked file. So the image, if we click in here, make sure the image is open. We're going to right click or two finger click and save image as. We want to make sure we choose the correct folder, and in this case I'm choosing my multimedia folder, and it's going to save it as Beetle product. You can rename it just Beetle if you'd like to, whatever you need to do there. So here is Beetle. I hit save, and that should show up in my folder, and then I'm going to go to the next arrow, and it's going to go over to the logo. And on this one, I also want to two finger click or right click, save image as. In this case, it's going to be the logo. So you can see I already have Beetle in here. I'm going to save logo as well because we're going to use this part in our project too. So if we go back to the lesson here, our tutorial looks like this. Well, once it loads. Someday. Here we go. And you'll notice that this looks a little bit different. This is a slightly older version of the Photoshop. It's a couple years old, but it is the same process and the same area. It's just that the tabs look a little bit different. The menus might look a shade different, but not too much is different as far as the technique goes. And so we're going to continue following that. So the very first thing you want to do is open the Beetle in Photoshop. And just like always, I'm not going to bounce back over here to this tutorial. I have one next to me that I'm going to work through. And I always highly suggest that you are saving frequently, and that you also are hitting pause on the video, going over to Photoshop and doing whatever that process is. So I would do box by box. And so in this case, I would open the Beetle, hit pause, go open beetle.jpg, and then reset your essential tools. That way you make sure that everything looks like it should right here. And then you go to the next box, come back, hit play, watch this next little bit that I'm going to go through, hit pause, go over and do that. So we're going to bounce over to Photoshop. I already have it here. I'm going to hit open. See some previous projects there. A cool logo. And there's my Beetle. And so what it asks us to do is reset the tools. And so if your tools do not look like this, I want you to go up here to Window, Workspace. You should be on the Essentials. And then if you need to, you can hit Reset Essentials. It'll make your area look like this. And just like always, whenever you get into Reset Essentials, there is a Learning tab that pops up here, and you can see that it shrinks the workspace. If you click over here on the little lines, you can hit Close Tab Group, and it'll disappear. And then you're left with your layers and your colors and swatches and gradients and patterns and stuff like that. So, excuse me. So the next one, it says double click on the word background of the layer in the layers palette. So we're going to double click right here on background in the layers tab. And I want to type car for the name inside of the new layer. So I'm going to hit car. And what this does, this unlocks our background and gives us the ability to edit this background color or background image. Nothing changed. The only thing that changed here is the It changed from a background and it had a lock on it. Now it's a layer that we can edit. So we're going to create a new layer by clicking the new layer button at the bottom of the layers palette. So way down here in the bottom corner, I'm going to click new. It's going to create a new layer. You can see it pops up just above. And I want to call this one paint. Whoop, I have to press on all sorts of letters over here. Double click on it. And you're going to call this one paint. So this is going to be the color of the vehicle. Right now it's a silver color, and we're going to do something very similar to our recolor process a couple of days ago or weeks ago, a couple lessons ago. And we want to make sure that we are doing the same thing to this. So it's going to take a dark color and make it so it's transparent so we can actually see through the image. We're going to select the B or brush tool, which is over here. And if I click on that, you'll see the brush tool is B. I want to make sure I choose the top one here. When you click in here, you'll see that I have a brush that I've been working on before. I want to go all the way back up to the top. I want to do a hard, round brush. You'll see that I have a small size there. It's 15 pixels. You can use the bracket keys, which are up next to the letter P. That will make your brush size get bigger when it's out here in the... so if I press the brackets, the right one, you'll see that it's getting bigger. And you'll also notice that up here, the size has gotten bigger. And then if I do the one right next to the letter P, it's going to make it smaller. So it can go down that way. So I have a nice little brush there. That's just for when you're doing big spaces or small spaces. You can make it very quickly, make a change there without having to come back up here and make that change. I want you to choose a color for your Beetle, whatever color you would like. On the tutorial, they talk about swatches. You can use a swatch, but in our case, we end up with a bunch of these things to choose from, and it's not the easiest way to choose a swatch or a color. And so if you want to use the swatches, that's fine. You can click through there and find a color that works for you, or you can stay on the color tab and choose something in here that you like. So I'm going to choose a blue. Metallic-y looking blue, and that's going to be the starting point. Now you want to make sure that you have your paint layer selected, which is this one right here, and I want to paint only on the door of the Beetle. So I'm going to click over here, and you'll see that I'm going to hold Option and then 2-finger swipe up, and when I color on this, just like we did the other day, you want to make sure we're getting right up to the door, and I'm trying to make sure that we are staying off of the tires, off of the bottom, the shadow, off the window. So if you have to, you can zoom in even more. And I would do small strokes, and so you're doing just a little bit and stop and try it again, because what happens is if you have to undo something, you're gonna have to undo a lot of stuff, and that gets kind of difficult. Right there, I don't want to do that light. I just want to get this part right there. I want to leave the light without blue on it. So make sure I get all the door. I got most of the door there. So that's going to be pretty good for what I'm looking at here for right now. I'll show you what it does here in just a second. So now, just like we looked at the other day, there is an opacity level right here that's going to give us the ability to change how see-through the paint job is on the the vehicle, and we're going to take it down to about 30%. And so it goes down from $100, I wish $100, 100% down to 30%. And now if you look at the car, you'll see that it looks like a real paint job. I mean, it's kind of rough, but that'll work. So now if I continue painting, you'll see that I am painting and basically recoloring this project so that it's going to have a blue look to it. So I'm going to go down and try and paint everything that I can that has this silvery original paint job on it. You see I went over the edge right there. I'll have to take that off in just a second. The nice thing with the eraser tool on here is that it does not cause any lasting effects on the image underneath, the underlying image. So as I am painting, if I do have to erase, it is only erasing as long as I stay on this paint layer. You can see it's a very bright blue there. As long as I stay on the paint layer and I hit the erase, that's way too big. I can use the brackets to bring it down, but I can click there and I can erase around the edge. I can make it smaller if I needed to. Back to the B, using the brush again. So you're trying to be as close to the edge as possible. So I got a little bit more to go here. I'll probably finish this up and we'll be right back. Oh, one more thing before I go. We want to make sure that you're not getting the logo, the lights, the lights here, anything that's metal, like usually you don't have, the rims are not the same color as the Beetle. We have a light here, you have a light over there. You just want to make sure you're getting just the paint job, trying to make it look like it's a different color. So yep, I'll be right back with the adjustments for the next part. Okay, now that I have it colored, I want to show you how to remove some of the mistakes in the coloring. And here you can see I went a little bit outside of the mirror. I want to make sure I come in and clean that up just to make it look a little bit better. There's some right through here on the glass. I used a brush that was just a little bit, erased a little bit too much. See, that's why we go nice and slow. And we do little strokes. That way, if we do make a mistake in our erase, it doesn't take too much to get it back. So I got a little bit on the sunroof. So I gotta make the brush a lot smaller. I come through here and clean up that sunroof a little bit. There's the sunroof line. I have a little bit more here. And if you want to see exactly where it is, you can always come back here to the opacity and bring it up a lot, and then you say, whoa, holy cow, I missed a whole bunch right there. So if I go back to the brush, make it small, you can paint in pixel by pixel almost on here. So you got to erase some stuff up there. Here's another spot I got to come through and just do another swipe or two with the brush. You're going to come up this way. Whoops, I went off the grid there. That looks alright. Actually, it doesn't. Looks like a kindergartner with a bad box of crayons. Probably make it just a touch bigger. There we go. Makes it a little bit easier to color in when we're not doing pixel by pixel. So here's that. So I'm gonna swipe through here, clean up some of those lines. Cool. It's basically like using a giant spray paint can, trying to clean this thing up or color it. There's some more erase on the top there. I missed the I just went over the lights because it was easier, I thought, to come back through, erase this afterwards, which it is. Oops, I got the logo here. A little bit of the light on this side. A little bump over on this side. And you can see, if you can't see through, all I have to do is lower it a little bit. You start to see some lines. Yep, we gotta make this smaller. I'm gonna come through here and clean up the V-dubs. There we go. We'll clean up this one. Clean up this one. And that should be good. I'll be right back. All right, so your finished Beetle should look pretty professional. It should look like it is straight off the factory floor, brand new, no dings, dents, no scratches, nothing like that. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use the background that's included on the Schoology folder for this assignment, and it's called Beetle background, and the document is a PSD file, and so we're going to get that one. Okay, so I opened up my Beetle background, and here is my Beetle the car. And with this, you'll notice that my purpley blue color here doesn't really match very well to this light shade of blue that I have going on here. And so what we can do with this is go up to Image, Adjustments, and the Hue Saturation. And that is right there. When I click on it, it's going to give me the ability to adjust the color of the main color here. Right now it's at 0. You'll notice that I'm in the light blue here, but it's actually purple. So this is going to because it's here in the blue, it's going to adjust based on this color with this setting. It doesn't look right, but it is. So right now the blues line up here. What you're going to see is if I come over here, we start to get some redder colors, and then as it gets over there, it gets kind of yellowy green. I'm going to bring it back over this way. You'll see that it gets a little bit different shades of color over this way. So we have the whole spectrum that we can go through. And so what I want you to do is find one that looks good to your eyes. It looks like it'll be acceptable for whatever image you are creating here. I'm going to try and find some kind of an orange color, I think. Right about there. Why? I don't know. But we're going to do it. So I hit OK, and that locks this in. And you'll see that it has a white circle, a whitish colored circle. We want that to be there as well. So now what we're going to do is we're going to jump back over here to the Beetle that we've been working on. And I want to flatten this image. And in order to flatten it, I have to go up here and right click or 2-finger click. And there is a setting on the menu that pops up called Flatten Image. And what that's going to do is going to put all of these layers together. You'll notice that you don't have a Beetle, the gray one, in a separate paint layer. You have one layer, and it looks just like this. You can also come over here on the 3 lines. Let me bring that back really quick. Let me undo, Command Z. And if I come up here to the lines in the corner, you'll see that one of the options down here on this is also flatten image. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use the move tool. And I'm going to grab a hold of this. I'm going to bring it up here. I'm going to bring it back down and let go. So I click and hold. I bring it up here so I can drag it on top of this tab. When it pops over here, I can drop it. And now you can see that I have that image. That layer has been added to the background. So I want to make sure I close out of the Beetle project. I don't want to save the painted one. I want to make sure I save it as multiple layers. I want to keep it with multiple layers just in case I want to modify it again at some other point. So now that I have my background, I also want to label this one. So I'm going to double click where it says layer 1, and I'm going to type Beetle. And so I should have these 2 layers. I want to use the magic wand tool, which is about 4 down. It's underneath the polygon lasso tool. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click on the white area around the outside of the Beetle. Make sure that he's in the middle first because I want to get all of the white. And so I'm going to click on that again. I'm going to click, make sure I get everything. And you'll see that I have those marching ants going around the outside of the selection or outside of the Beetle. I want to separate the car from the white part, the white background. So what I want to do here is I want to select the inverse because all I want to do is keep the Beetle. I want to make sure that he is there. So what I want to do here is I want to make sure that I'm going to keep the Beetle, and I want to use a special tool over here called the Quick Mask tool. And so I want to do a Command-Shift-I, which will do the inverse selection of that layer. And so now you'll see that the Beetle has been selected. It doesn't look any different, but the Beetle has been selected. And if I do the Quick Mask tool, which is also this right down here at the bottom. If I click on that, you'll see that there we go. So now the whole outside has been selected, and I'm left with just this part right here. I want to be able to zoom in. I'm going to two finger and swipe up a little bit. I want to make sure I'm getting all the parts selected that I want to have selected. And I want to get rid of any shadows. So you look underneath here, you have the shadow that goes around, and the quick mask, the selection, the magic wand did a good job at getting some of those things, but it didn't get everything. So what the quick mask does, very similar to masking tape, is it's going to be able to get rid of some of the things that are on the image that I don't want to have in my final image. So you'll notice that my colors, when I do quick mask, they get set to a default of white and black. And what happens is when I use the brush tool and I'm painting, it's not, whoops, I have to make sure I have a hard brush and a decently large one too. There we go. So what this is going to do is I'm going to paint underneath here with black. And what that's going to do is it's going to cover up the shadow. It's going to cover up any place that's pink is stuff that I do not want to show in my final image. So as I paint over here and it starts to turn a little pink, that's good. I can even go around the outside here because I don't want the outside part of the border to show up. It's not going to because it's a whole separate layer. But I can still do that if it makes me feel good about getting rid of that part. So I'm going to go around here with the quick mask tool, and remember that you're painting with a brush, but you're not really painting. You're just adding more mask to the image. So I'm going to bring it over this way. Very quickly, just get rid of that. And just like before, I want to make sure I'm only getting the parts that I want in here. And you'll notice that I accidentally colored some of the beetle there. So what I could do is do the white. Why is that not completely white? There we go. I must have had like a shade of white on there because it had just a little bit of a pink hue to it. So I'm going to come over here. I got a little bit of the wheel there. I want to make sure that the wheel shows up in the final image. I'm going to flip these back to black and white because I want to get underneath here a little bit. Let's see what that looks like. Good deal. There's that. This is just a little bit of stuff there. A little jagged edge. Cool, that looks a little bit better. So I'm not using the eraser tool. I'm not painting on top of it. I'm using the quick mask tool to do that. Now, once I get that done, you'll see that if I press the Q or I click on this tool over here, it's going to turn that mask off. And now if I tried to do the brush, it would actually brush whatever color I have selected. I don't want that. So, but again, the quick mask lets us select the image that we want to have kind of blocked off or isolated in the finished product. And because I have this is not necessary, but I like because it doesn't have this on the outside then. Okay, there we go. Still in the Beetle layer, doing the quick mask. When I turn that off, down here at the bottom, we can click on this button at the very bottom of the layers palette. When I do this, it's going to apply the layer mask. What it's going to do is make the white part disappear. And you can see that it has like a cutout. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking a cutout of this image and I'm just removing whatever I don't want to see in the final. So this is the stuff you see right here. The next step is to use the transform controls. If I press T, those will show up. No, I didn't. That's the text tool. It's Command T does the transform control. That's actually in the move tool. You'll see that this box, this checkbox, will give me the same thing. So if I go to the move arrow and I check that box, it's going to give me the ability to readjust the size of my image. And so what I want to do here is I'm going to move him down, and I want to do a couple things at the same time. I'm going to zoom out, number one. I'm going to click here in the corner and drag it, and you'll see that as I drag it from a corner, it's going to keep all of the dimensions proportionate. And if I happen to grab from a top or a side, well, I guess Photoshop updated. It used to do something that looks like this, where you would squish and it destroys the proportions, the original proportions of the image. So looks like they have this set as the default now, which is very nice. So we want to put our beetle down here so it looks like it's riding inside of the color. Inside this white circle. I can shrink it down a little bit more and put it right there. The next thing I want to do is make sure that I get my Volkswagen logo on this part of the image as well. That is also located in the Schoology folder for this project. And I want to use the quick mask tool again to isolate the image from the white background. You'll notice as you drag this in, or as you open it and drag it into the layer, it's going to have an X through it. That is just waiting for you to resize it to whatever size you need to have. And in this case, we want it to be not too big, not too small. I'm going to put it something like that, maybe a little bit smaller than this. And when I press the return key or the enter key, it's going to lock that image in place. You'll see that it has Beetle logo there. Now I want to do my Q, or the quick mask here, on this part. And I'm going to zoom in. My brush tool, I'm going to come around the outside. Let's see, I can actually do just like I did before, the magic wand. Select that one. I can use my add to selection. So I can add that part, and this part. Do the quick mask. Do my select inverse. There it is right there. Why isn't it? Oh, because I'm already in quick mask. Command Shift I will do that, or you can come up here to select and inverse, and that selects everything. Now when I do my quick mask, you'll see that the white is masked out, and the Volkswagen logo is still going to be there. So I can come through here, make sure I'm masking out the proper part of the image. If my paintbrush is too small, I can resize it, or I can do the bracket. The square bracket is going to give me the ability to make a smaller brush. So I can come through there. Same thing right here. And then let's go over here and finish. Whoops, that's too close. There we go. And I want to turn that off and then apply the quick mask, which should make the outside of that disappear. And then the very last thing I want to do is use a quote that would fit Volkswagen, and I have one there. And you're going to use the text tool and their example. Let's see. Lot of attitude. All up in, let's get the letters right. Tiny little package. So when I select all that, Command A, I can move it where I want it to go. I can come up here to the font size and bring this down so it's a little bit nicer. I'm also going to do white text because I think that'll look nicer on this background. And there are some things you can do with the text, or any layer for that matter, that will give it more character, I guess. If I, as soon as I'm done, I can leave the text tool. I'm going to click on the Move tool just to give myself, so I'm not editing with the actual text. And if I go here to the FX key, we did this with the stroke on one of the previous projects. But if you maybe the bevel emboss, you can see what it's going to do here. Reset to default. And we can adjust things so you can play around with the settings here. Bevel and emboss have a couple different options here. So this is going to make it look like it's sticking off of the image, off the page a little bit. I'm also going to add just a touch of outer glow. Well, that's a little too much. That's not a touch. There we go. Reset to default. Go to the black. Maybe that'll add a little more depth to the image. But so I have those two settings, and I think it makes it stand out just a little bit more. But you can adjust this as you need, and I also hope that you have been working with the or hitting pause and then working with the image as we've been going through this whole process. So this is step number 1. You're going to finish this one, save it, and turn this project in. And then step number 2, part number 2, is to turn in an advertisement very similar using the same background image here for a different product. And I want you to find that, recolor it somehow, find a way to recolor it, mask it out. You should see the masks on there. Have the logo, the product, some text, and a background. And that will be turned in. It's your choice of product. You can do whatever you want. But that will help. This tutorial will help you walk through those steps again. So if you have questions, I would look back at this video, and hopefully it is helpful as you're completing both parts of this project. If you have any questions, please let me know.